What's up, YouTube? This is Naxxion with another deck profile, and today I wanted to talk about Zoodiac. This is a deck that I've actually grown to really enjoy over the course of this year, and although I don't really have any toppings with it, I figured I would at least give a deck profile explaining just my take and build with the deck, and see if there's anything distinct about it. I play triple copies of Thoroughblade. You want the Zoodiacs that do something on field and force. There are times where you don't really want to use the effect because your normal summon matters with Barrage being banned. But Thoroughblade is still really good, and I don't think this ratio will ever change unless like Rapier and the whole deck came back, in which case you might cut this down to 2 copies. But still really good. This can force an interaction from your opponent, and interaction is key with this deck. Triple copies of Zoodiac Whiptail. Whiptail, once again, is a very interactive heavy card, and there have been times where I will play this card, and it can win the game with one simple difference and change, despite how minor it is. That's the one thing I really like about Zoodiac, especially even back then, 2017, which I'm actually been trying out. It's actually a lot of fun. The mirror has a lot of nuance and technicality to it. And Whiptail, this doesn't change. This is one of your best openers. This is also one of your best enablers. Sometimes to clear out one monster that might be a problem with, like Fenrir. Whiptail is really good, and it has a lot of applications that are useful for the deck. I also play the 1 copy of the Ram. I play 1 Ram because there are times where this effect can come up, but I mainly am more interested in Imperm, since Imperm is one of the best ways to stop this deck, especially since our line is Borbo, and playing at least 1 Ram will guarantee that if you are certain that your opponent has it, or that's all you're afraid of, this 1 card right here will protect you and you can win the game. With that same line, I play 1 copy of Bunny Blast. This is for like runic heavy matchups, and just, there's formats where there's a lot of like very powerful targeting effects with spell cards or monsters. These are interchangeable. I also agree with Cataroost being on, but this format is not very emphasized on targeting with monsters, so I go with these 2. Then I play for my final Zoodiac, Rapier. Like I said before, with Thoroughblade and Whiptail, this card forces an interaction. This is basically your 4th copy of Whiptail, 4th copy of this, especially with how I use the extra, which isn't saying very much, but even with Rapier not being able to loop itself, being limited at 1, being able to send the card to the deck is always going to inherently be a good thing. Especially if your opponent doesn't know what this deck does, and though they see you send the card to grave, that's a really good effect. There are so many cards that are banned or limited that do something like that. So Rapier, really good. Again, interaction. You want your opponent to burn resources. You want them to. And of course, if 2 is on, I would play this in deck entirely differently. But for now, this is it. I know a lot of decks don't play Rapier. I think Rapier is really good. Even if you don't play combo, I really think this is a mandatory Zoodiac card that you should play. For the other monsters, I play 2 copies of Dino Wrestler. I know for a while people were saying Fenrir is the better target for Dino Wrestler, in exchange. But the thing about the engine that we have to use for the current state, especially with Barrage and Dryden and Broad being gone and a lot of the other utility cards, you need to get a proactive game state. Fenrir does not, and it also can, in fact, interfere with your deck. And Dino Wrestler can, at best, remove 2 cards, or at least annoy your opponent to force an interaction. That's the thing about this card. This card's better than Fenrir 8 out of 10 times. Yes, so Dino Wrestler, if it was at 3, I would play 3. This card's crazy, really good. It's almost like a mandatory zoo card. And as for the hand traps, I play Triple Shifter. I don't hate Shifter. I just don't care for it in this deck, but you need to play this card. This card has lost me so many games at the same time simply because I draw it mid-game all the time. I mean, all the time. But you need to turn skip your opponent. That is the way that you can slow your opponent or whatnot. It's not particularly great this format because there's so many shifter decks, but in formats where shifter hurts a lot, this card becomes more valuable. This could honestly be sided, but I main deck it because it's just another interaction piece. And I also play 3 Molchami Perilia. Really good in this deck. And I mean really good. Again, 1 card interaction difference is very, very good. This will obviously most likely be paired with Furos when it does come out. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the hell out of that. But yeah, I want high impact hand traps for the most part and stuff that interacts with the grave. So with that being said, I play the 1 copy of the Magma Hut and 2 copies of Druid Swarm. Kind of dangerous to be playing that with not going to a region or a higher end where you're expected to see, but these come up a lot. This thins your deck. This gives interaction. This will slow your opponent down. And with Fiendsmith so apparent, shutting Fiendsmith down is very crucial. Desiree can out your board a lot. So having, once again, more card interaction and more emphasis on the things that you can't really touch. Zoodiac does not win against the graveyard, so you need to be able to stop it. You need to be able to just have a bunch of lingering effects, because this is a blowout deck, so you need these powerful one-off cards. As for the spell lineup, we play triple copies of Fire Formation Tenki. It's almost as if now I'm playing more copies of Zoodiac. And also, at the same time, it's as if now I have extension, or I have a way to just get what I need from it, which can come up. You have combo, but you need to get Whiptail. Wonderful. You know, it's almost as if you're playing more copies of Whiptail or whatever, even to start your turn, because most opponents will not interact with this. But if they do, it can be very dangerous and foolish of them if they do not. If they think that you bricked on it. I'm rambling. Still really good, mandatory. I know some people have actually talked about not playing it. I don't know why you wouldn't. I have been experimenting with Way Where There's a Will. Now, the reason I'm trying this out is, for one, Pot of Prosperity would have been so good in this deck had it not completely ruined your extra. This card and this deck is inherently going second. Not only, first of all, I know some people will probably say, well, losing 1 card for 1 could look like a -1. You play this, you search, and then you put 1 back. You didn't gain anything. The thing, though, is this is better prosperity. For a lot of reasons, you're not hampered with damage, and this deck already struggles to go for games, so you don't have that. You don't lose your extra deck. Your opponent, especially, like, let's say you lose the dice roll, they go first, unless you're Tenpai. They play their board, you play this once. Now they have to be aware of it in game 2, or game 3, depending on if they want to try to go first again, or you. This really does make your opponent kind of cautious to not put as many cards on the board. This forces an interaction. This forces so much. If this resolves with like 7 cards and you get to look through 7 cards in your deck and pick one, it doesn't matter what the other cards in your deck is. You could get Dark Ruler, you could get Forbidden Droplet, you could get Harpies, you can get so many great cards, and this card really helps. I've been hesitating to see if I want to play Terraforming, but no, I think this card's slept on. I'm even interested in trying this out in Cashier because of the double Prosper gone. This is just consistency to push for going second. I think this is a really great field spell, and it punishes overextension. You know, if you have 9 cards. I mean, I'll doubt I'll ever resolve that, but, you know, it's a very... I love cards that have effects, and then they have a secret effect that can come up. That's one reason why I like Cash. Like, if you play Prep, you get that bonus effect. this has a bonus effect attached to it. In late games, it really does punish your opponent, and they kind of do have to play to some degree around seeing this card. If it performs well enough, because I'm still going to try it out some more, I'll play Terraforming, so you're playing 4 copies. But yeah, really good consistency, and helps you push, because your deck, once again, does not matter about if you need to lose a card to gain. You're playing a bunch of blowout cards. The thing that is when you play those cards, you need to plus more off it to justify playing a weaker deck. And then, of course, you play triple copies of Engage. Engage is Engage. It basically says, if you're playing your deck proper and you can open good enough, hey, I want to search for a card and I want to draw a card. Game winning, not once per turn, go into another one. So yeah, really good there. And I also play double copies of Pot of Desires. This really does round out the engine pieces, or just extension, or whatever you want to call it, for the deck being able to just push through or gain access to other cards, since your deck really doesn't care about banishing cards face down or anything like that. I'm quite happy with the engine pieces there. And now for the rest, we play, the reason that this deck is still playable is triple copies of Eagle Booster. This card is degenerate. This card is ridiculous in this deck. Since we are, in fact, Zeus Turbo, this is just how the game is played. And yeah, broken card. You also play the 1 copy of Widow Anchor. This is so Engage doesn't lose targets, and it gives you something else in case you already hard open one, or whatever the reason is. This is also just really good in general. So then the board breakers I play is triple copies of Dark Ruler No More and triple copies of Forbidden Droplet. I believe rounding the deck out to 42 cards. It may not look like much, but you already have a ton of search consistency and availability to get it. I might have to tweak and add 2 more cards, because, it in some ways you're only playing 6, but the likelihood that you see one is still pretty decent. And with all the other cards mentioned too. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that ratio build too. And now for the most original part, the extra deck. I play 2 copies of Hammer Kong. I know some people play 1, but I really just like seeing the extra name. I play 2 copies of Borbo. I know some people play 3, and that's fine. I honestly probably would cut one of this for a 3rd board, but I do not own a 3rd board. Boar is the reason this deck is actually still playable. 2 copies of Shakanine. With playing Ram in the deck, this does become more live and become more of an important card again. But it's also, frankly, just there to exist as another body to get into Zeus. Now, I play triple copies of Tiger Mortar with the emphasis of Rapier being in the deck. First of all, I think this is the best one. Besides Borbo being able to facilitate Zeus, this is the best one. Now there's a much better emphasis on needing to grab cards in the grave and attach to get better attack boost. Or, again, interaction. You want to see Whiptail. You want to see Thoroughblade. You want to see these cards. And I know it can be unoptimized because it's weird ratios, but late game, this 3rd one can really just come up out of nowhere, and sometimes that's all you genuinely need, because this is the best one. I know some people will disagree with that. I think it is currently the best one, except, of course, outside Broadbow and Dryden, but Broadbow's never coming back. And I play the 1 Drill Driver. I don't like this card, but it is an extra option for the deck. Personally, I prefer playing this card, Full Armored Utopic Ray Lancer. This card actually is not terrible against decks like Yubel, negating their effects. And granted, Nightmare Pain still exists, but it can, in theory, wipe a board out, and it's not bad stat lines. For some reason, this is a Beast Warrior too. And, when you look at it, it's 50-50 if sending a spell hurts or not, but sometimes there are just some spells you can't use, but you might have an Engage. Once again, small interaction change, but this is also to help be able to push through a board in case that you just can't normally. And I'm speaking very lightly. This deck is nimble. It can get sneezed on and you just lose. But, you need every little advantage that you can get for this deck. And so those are the two plays of there. I play one copy of Typhon and, of course, triple Zeus. Reason you play this deck, just Zeus. Zeusing at least 3 times, no board can survive it. And depending if you build your deck correctly and play your cards correctly too, and the deck's nice to you, you can just get a cheeky win off it. Now regarding the side deck, I play triple copies of Ash. There's still enough rogue decks and meta decks where I might be more interested in them trying to search something. Plus, Branded Fusion, the best branded best Ash target in the game. And I also play triple copies of DD Crow. This could be changed for something else, but again, I feel cards like Promethean Princess, Yama, and so many other cards, Fiendsmith, and this deck cannot interact with the graveyard. It just doesn't do it. So this can. And, that moment where your opponent tries to Albion the gimmick and you DD Crow it, and they cry that they can't force something even more degenerate somehow than this, with somehow less skill expression than this deck too. I also play one copy of Thrust, one copy of Talons, one copy of Raigeki, one copy of Harpies, one copy of Change of Heart, one copy of Snatch Steal, and one copy of this. This card is not totally great in the current format. Snake Eyes is still around, but in theory, some decks really will hard lose with this card. It's also not good against White Forest, but it is, with regards to above average in his theory of one-ofs. I play one Thrust. I could play more, but it's essentially playing 2 copies of all this. Talons gives you versatility. Raigeki gives you an additional way to break the board if you're going against a very back row heavy. I know I should be playing Cosmics, but you can't prepare for everything. You just get the base standard, and even then, this is still really good against decks. Change of Heart, Snatch Steal, and this. All 3 of these, granted, Snatch Steal can't be searched with Thrust, but you don't care. You're basically playing 3 copies, and then this card, which can be acted as a 4th, are for forcing interaction. You're noticing a pattern here. I only care, this card forces an interaction, I win. That's all I'm interested in. And I feel like that's the focus of the deck. And if you ask me, I do not believe currently that this deck can go first. I know of the full Armored Xyz package, but I think it's underwhelming. I think playing 2 bricks in the deck and then getting Imperm doing it is just the worst feeling. You could do so much more. Going second is just the way. And again, this isn't some high-tier deck anymore. It can win, like any deck in theory. But this is the mentality of playing Zoodiac. Then the final 2 cards, if I know my opponent's going to force me to go first, I play 1 copy of Anti-Spell and 1 copy of There Can Be Only One. I do not like playing Floodgates. Not really as much anymore. I don't really get enjoyment out of it, but I will say if Dryden came back, and only Dryden came back, I would up the Floodgates, because sitting on Dryden with this is actually good. Anti-Spell hurts a lot if you can't finish, but the thing that I like about these cards is I, for the most part, control when I don't have use for it anymore. Unlike cards like D-Barrier, if I'm going against an Xyz deck, I can't control that lingering effect any longer. But if I go Zeus and I want to play other spell cards, I can. Because obviously by that point I would have set, not Widowwinker, Eagle Boost, activated it, and now I want to play other cards. So I play these 2. They're whatever. I just don't believe this deck can go first, so this is the most degenerate way to try to turn skip. You'll notice a lot. It's either turn skip, small interaction changes, or blowout cards. Welcome to Zoodiac of 2024. But yeah, that's my Zoodiac list. It's fun. I'm thinking that I will build a 2017 list and show it. If that format ever takes off, which, be honest, I think it's way better than Edison. Way better. And it has a lot more credit given. And I'm talking Rage, post Rage and previous Rage. Although previous Rage you're playing pure Zoo. After Rage, there's a lot of decks that you can play, and it would be really fun to have a deck for it. And again, if that timeline comes back. But yeah, that's my Zoodiac. So please let me know if you liked it and enjoyed the video. And if I ever do another one of these, then hopefully they turn out better and better each time. Thank you.